He transforms, gets that base HP. Charlie T, he's caught out, doesn't manage to land the shockwave on a toaster due to the spell shield, and now FM, they're just wiping the floor with Infused, rolling through their base, picking up the inhibitor, picking up 3 kills, maybe 4 in a second. But all that matters is that the Nexus is next to fall. FM pick up game 1 of our finals.
And that is definitely the case. And one thing to note is that it was definitely Infused game for the vast majority of this game. It was just the moment they overstayed in that bottom lane and gave the momentum back in FM's favor that FM were able to come back and start fighting back. And I feel like if Infused just... I feel that if they pick a slightly harder engage composition, if they looked at teamfight slightly, if they pick their engages a little bit more, if they think a bit more carefully before they choose their fights and what objectives they want to go for, then they're definitely going to put up a strong fight. But definitely very well played by both teams. A very close game for the vast majority, and I'm looking forward to how things play out in Game 2. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the qualifiers for the Insomnia 55 tournament coming up later at the end of this month, where teams are trying to win 5 BYOC tickets for the Challenger Cup that will be held later on this month, as I already stated. So we do have FM eSports versus Infused, and this is Game 2 with FM taking a very close victory in Game 1. So what are we thinking going into Game 2?
Well, I'm thinking quite a few things, unlike what I was thinking at the beginning of the series. It really, I think, is going to boil down to the pick and ban phase, because both these teams, skill-wise, there's a hairline difference between them. I think it's honestly so close. But FM, consistently, over the last few events I've cast this matchup at, has had a very strong pick and ban phase. Last game, we saw it in action. There is a kind of weak poke comp coming in from Infused that wasn't able to really do that much as the game progressed. They've got first pick this game. I'd like to see them utilize it to really get a strong composition, because that's going to be what clinches it for them.
Yeah, and it does look like they're actually going to keep their bans more or less the same. I can't quite remember whether or not we saw a Janna ban last game, but we definitely saw an Aurelia ban. This time, FM are going to have to ban out that Elise, so they don't want to give Elise away over to Memento. As I said earlier, Nutri considers Elise to be an incredibly strong jungler right now, so FM holding off a bit on their bans. I wonder whether or not they'll ban anything. No, they're going to stick to that Rek'Sai ban, and I expect maybe we'll see a Fizz ban. Yeah, there it is, another. So pretty much sticking to the same bans from the side of Infused, and we will see what the final ban will be. I wonder whether or not the Nidalee did a decent early game, but I'm not sure it was a massive threat. I wonder, and they are going to ban the Azir. That was so bans fairly similar for both teams. I guess both teams felt that there wasn't any real champion that posed a real significance. But yeah, I was about to say, I wonder if the Victor will be first picked this game, and it does appear that it is.
Yep, Charlie T has been favoring that, and Infused as a whole has been favoring that for a long time. Doesn't surprise me at all. We also saw Zivis play it really well, so you're also picking it away from someone. Pretty much an ideal situation to be in. Maybe we're going to see Alistair Sivir on the first rotation from FM. Would be pretty standard if they did do that. Alternatives include things like Nautilus, but I think most likely that's the kind of first rotation we're going to see from FM.
Yeah, there were a few questionable positioning mistakes from Wisdom on Alistair last game, but he definitely had a solid performance overall, especially when it came to the team fights. Getting those engages, definitely offering a large amount of peel for the rest of his team, which definitely turned those fights around in FM's favor. So we are actually going to see a very early Shen lock-in now. That's very interesting. Yesterday, TIP in their game against Dignitas played that in every single game, so definitely risen to popularity in more recent patches, and I feel that's largely due to the top laners becoming weaker, resulting in Shen just kind of rising to the top, and the amount of pressure that he can provide with his Stand United really makes it difficult for teams to try and get picks and make those like sneaky plays.
Yeah, it very much does, and actually Nidalee being hovered over again here by Memento. I was gonna say I'm not a huge fan of that for Infused's lineup. With something like an Alistair and a Victor, do you really need that poke? And I think the answer is probably no. Evelyn makes a lot more sense. And it's going to be a quick Trundle and Oriana picked up by FM. We have seen, I believe it was maybe even Wisdom playing Trundle support the other day. It did some serious work.
It definitely did. And we will see the Oriana coming out on the other side as well. Now, yesterday we did get to touch a little bit on that Trundle. That's the word I'm looking for, and it definitely did well. And it's interesting because he picked it into Alistair yesterday as well. So I wonder whether or not, for Wisdom, Trundle is just his go-to champion against Alistair, and that's a little bit surprising for me because I feel like Trundle has a very weak laning phase, and as we saw from Infused, a Graves Alistair has a very strong, threatening laning phase. So I'm a little bit surprised that he's decided to pick that, but I guess he's confident in the champion. He understands its boundaries, and he did have some fantastic Pillar of Filths yesterday. Pillar of Filths, what a strange thing to say, but meanwhile on the side of Infused, they're going to go back to something like very standard. We saw this a lot, and you mentioned in the first game of today that this sort of composition is very traditional Infused, very, very all-rounded, very offers a lot of decent engage, a lot of disengage, very team fight focused, and very sort of Infused based.
Absolutely, and I think from now on we should call them fantastically filthy pillars because it just sounds a little bit better. But Wisdom, he's got to lock in a final pick here, and it's possible that wasn't what I expected.
So we're gonna see a Urgot, that's his name. We're gonna see an Urgot Trundle bot lane.
I'm gonna let the color caster do all the talking for now because I don't got a clue what's going on.
Okay, so Urgot, we haven't seen him played in a very long time, but nothing really changed to Urgot. There was, as far as I can recall, he wasn't really nerfed in any way. It was just that the meta kind of shifted. When Cinderhulk junglers came out, kind of for some reason, as an AD carry and as a mid laner, he just kind of fell off. People didn't really want to play Urgot anymore, but he wasn't necessarily nerfed. And I guess Toaster, I know Toaster's been playing Urgot ever since he was popular, so definitely a comfort champion for him. And I guess they're just going for some kind of, I want to say cheese, but then at the same time, it's not really cheese because clearly both the players are familiar with their champions. So it's tough to say, but like the thing that I'm worried about for FM is a large amount of their damage kind of comes from their mid laner, but then the same thing sort of comes from the other side because the later the game goes, I would argue that Sivir outscales Urgot. Now, obviously, Sivir outscales in forms of utility, but I would also agree in forms of damage because she's obviously going to go for the Infinity Edge Phantom Dancer traditional AD carry build, whereas Urgot probably isn't. He's probably going to go for the Black Cleaver Muramana Last Whisper, which obviously still does damage. It's not going to be anywhere near as much damage as the standard AD carry build. So I feel like in this scenario, the later the game goes, it's actually going to be a lot more in Infused favor. So we will have to see whether or not FM can pull out a strong early game and snowball that to an early victory.
All right, well, it's another one of those games I can't wait to see. I feel like this is just deja vu. I say it every single time we're getting into the spectator delay, and it's because these games are so good. So, if you want to see another so good, very good game, don't go anywhere. After this short break, we will be back. More information on all of the stuff that's going on can be found on a variety of social media links. They're going to be in the chat below. Please stick around. This could be the final game if FM takes it. Don't go anywhere. It's going to be an awesome one.
Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry about that slight pause, but the issues have been resolved. Everybody now is in the game, and this is the second game of the best of 3 final between Team Infused and FM eSports. So, very close game in game 1. We saw an initial early lead very heavily in the favor of Team Infused, and then all of a sudden a swing back in the favor of FM to bring themselves the win. So we will have to see whether or not FM can close out this best of 3 by winning this game, or whether or not Infused were able to pull it back with this victory. So what are your thoughts coming into this game?
Well, I think this game Infused has a much better draft than they did. originally, and I think that is going to be a big deal. I also think FM have a weaker draft. As it stands, they're really lacking damage against a relatively tanky team. I mean, who's going to kill Alistair? Who's going to kill Alfari? These are questions which I don't think there's a particularly good answer for.